Mark Skaar on the Skaar Kaard on 103.7 The Fox, and I am proud to welcome back Mr. Steve Conte. Steve, how are you?
Hey, Mark, and everybody out there listening. I'm great. No complaints from the Bronx here.
So in April, the Concrete Jangle came out, your newest record, and I have to say, Steve, I think it's one of the best records for rock and roll in 2024. I really mean it.
Oh, thank you, man. Well, I'm very proud of it because I got to write it with one of my heroes.
Right.
One of my favorite songwriters of all time. You know, he's right up there with Lennon McCartney, Jagger Richards, Townsend, and that's Andy Partridge of XTC.
Yeah, my friend Matthew is a huge XTC fan, so he's going to love hearing you talk about Andy.
I've known Andy since probably, we started actually communicating in around 2015 maybe, through producer Steve Lillywhite, who is a good friend of mine. We had met at a party, actually, and we became fast friends, and I was on his radio. He had a radio show in New York here, and I was on his radio show a few times, played live, and then he actually asked me to sub for him when he went away somewhere to do a record. And we started chatting one day on Twitter, and I mentioned XTC and Andy, and Lillywhite said, "Hey, Andy's here on Twitter. We should rope him into this conversation." And next thing you know, the three of us are chatting, and Andy says to me, well, he was aware of my stuff because I had a guitar builder friend of mine he was making a guitar for Andy years ago, like 2003. And I said, oh, please give Andy my new record, which at the time was a band I had with my brother called the Contes. Mm-hmm. The album was called Bleed Together, and it was a pretty adventurous, weird pop record. And I heard back that Andy liked it, but we didn't have any direct context. But he was aware of who I was, and when Lillywhite wrote me into this conversation with Andy on Twitter, Andy was like, "You're the guy. You stole my dream gig." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Guitar player in the New York Dolls." I said, "What? Andy Partridge wanted to be in the New York Dolls?" Wow. Which I couldn't believe, just picturing him with his, bald head and glasses. But apparently, back before XTC was XTC, they were called the Helium Kids, I think, Andy and Colin and Terry. And they all had long hair, and they were before they got into the punky thing. And apparently he had sent David Johansen a letter, saying, I want to be in your band. This was after Johnny Thunders left, probably 75. And he said, professed his love for the band and said, I have a stage name for myself. I'm going to call myself Lord Andrew English. And so Andy told me all this over Twitter, and we started communicating. Eventually, somehow, we got each other's email addresses, and we were emailing. And then I was going through England on tour with Alice Cooper, with Michael Monroe, and he had heard that I was coming to play in Swindon, and he was like, I hear you're going to be in my whole town. He says, I'll buy you lunch.
Cool.
And I was like, immediate screenshot. I was like, Andy Partridge is going to buy me lunch. And we hung out all day that day. I did my sound check. Andy picked me up in the parking lot of the arena. We went and we hung out all day, passed a guitar between us, listened to music, had laughs, and it was just like hanging out with an old friend. It was an immediate connection. And then I went back and played my gig with Monroe, and then jumped on stage with Alice Cooper and did Schools Out. So that was a pretty great day.
That's pretty epic.
Yeah, it was one of the better days in music. That's kind of how we got friendly. And then after Bronx Cheer, at the label of Wicked Cool Records, Stephen Van Zandt was kind of after me for a new single. And I asked Andy, I said, I had been listening to these interviews with Andy where he was talking about how he had written a bunch of songs for people that never got used, and he had put out an album called My Failed Songwriting Career. Since he hadn't been touring or doing anything with XTC, he was writing for other people, or trying to. And so I had this bright idea. I said, let me ask Andy if he'll write a song with me. And so I wrote him. I said, Andy, would you like to write my next Wicked Cool Record single with me? And he wrote me back, well, Steve, I swore off writing with other people, but it's not a no. And that was very encouraging. And so I went away and I concocted this track that was very like psychedelic Beatles, XTC sounding, which is stuff I've always loved, but I hadn't really done a record like that myself. But it's, what got me into music in the first place when I was a kid. And so it was very natural. I sent that to him, and he was like, this is great, but it sounds too done. He goes, why don't we start something from scratch? Let's do a Zoom. So I was like, yes. So we did a Zoom, and instead of just one song, we wrote 4 songs. And then we did a follow-up Zoom. We wrote 4 more. So we had 8 songs to choose from for this album, and I put 5 on it, and I still got 3 left over for the next one.
So the front half of the Concrete Jangle is the Conte Partridge partnership, right?
Yes, and I didn't front load it like that way on purpose. It really flowed great that way. So I would have gladly mixed my songs in with those, but it flowed the best this way, so just did it. Yeah, so if you get the vinyl, side A, the first 5 songs on the A side are the Conte Partridge, and side B, 6 through 10, are just mine. And I think they flow pretty good together.
I agree. It's always fun, I'm sure, trying to get the flow right.
Yeah, you make a playlist in iTunes, and then you just keep moving stuff around, and you listen to the end of one to the beginning of the next, and, make sure it's not too repetitive, it's not the same beat, or the same key or whatever. And it worked out really nicely. And I had to choose what 5 songs of mine were going to work with the Partridge co-writes, because, you can't be no slouch, putting B-level material next to some Partridge stuff. So, I had to up my game and dip into some of my more Beatle-y, melodic stuff. And I think I got a good little mixture there.
Do you have, like, your stuff in boxes, like these are this style, these are songs that are up-tempo, these songs are Beatlesque, these songs are, I'm sure you just write whatever comes to you at that particular moment?
Some of them have been hanging around for a while, like the song Girl With No Name, which I did a video for. It's on YouTube. That is from the 80s.
Okay.
I think I wrote that in the mid-80s when I was just getting into XTC, actually. I always felt that was a nod to XTC. I don't know if anyone else hears it, but it's kind of a Motown. To me, Concrete Jangle is somewhere between 60s psychedelic Beatles, Motown, soul, and a bit of 80s XTC, I guess. So, yeah, that one was an old one, and Decomposing was probably, within the last 10 years. I wrote that, or 5 years even. And I Dream Her was a recent song. It's about my cousin who died of heroin overdose, unfortunately, at 27.
Sorry for your loss.
Club. Yeah, it was really tragic. And what else was on there on side B? Oh, All Tied Up is another, maybe in the last 10 years. So a few brand new songs, but, I just have, if you ever saw my office, it's cassette tapes and notebooks piled up, halfway to the ceiling of ideas that I can go back to. And, I'll never get to them all in my lifetime, but there's some good stuff buried somewhere on those tapes.
Yeah, and Motor City Love Machine kicks off side B.
Oh, yes, that's another one. That's from 1983, that one. But I totally rewrote the lyrics, but the music is right after I got out of school, really. It's got a lot of fancy chords in it, which I worked out of my system since then.
We're talking with Steve Conte about the Concrete Jangle. Now, when you wrote with Andy, Steve, did you write all the lyrics? Did you collaborate on lyrics and music? How did that partnership work?
It was different ways. When we did the first session, we each brought one song idea. So at least we'd have 2 things to work on if all else failed. And the first thing he did was he came in with this, he says, I've got this idea. It's sort of a Sid Barrett kind of riff. And he did this thing, he went, hey, hey, hey. And I was like, yeah, let's go with that. So he had that. That's I think the second song on the album, Hey,
Yep.
Hey, Hey, Aren't You the One? And I think he had the verse, pretty much. And then we wrote the bridge together, and we went back and forth on the lyrics. Like, we wouldn't like sit there on the Zoom and try and finish the entire song, but we'd get enough of it where I could take the idea away and make a demo of it and, add a second verse and add a bridge and stuff like that. So, and then we'd go back and forth. I'd send it to him, and he'd make comments on, you should change this line or make the chorus double or whatever arrangement ideas. 4th of July was a song that I had laying around since the 90s. I knew it was a great chorus, so I had the 4th of July, 4th of July, I didn't have lyrics for that part, but I had the title, and I had the melody, and I had the chords, and I could just never get a good verse for it. So I played it to Andy, and he was like, ooh, I know where it should go, and he immediately played that verse that's in there now, and it was like, yes, thank you. Took me 20 years to finish the thing, and he also added that nice little riff in the middle there, which sounds like a 12-string. So, it was a really organic kind of collaboration. I totally deferred to him on all lyrics. So I wrote a lot of the lyrics myself, and sometimes I even wrote really weird lyrics that I thought he's going to hate this. And to my surprise, he loved them. Got things like Pyromaniac and Quasimodo and all kinds of weird lyrics in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I thought, this is too weird. He's going to hate it. But, if anybody writes weird, it's Andy Partridge, and he loved it. One Last Bell was one where, so we had these little tricks, too. He would go, all right, what song is it that you wish you had written? And I said, King Midas in Reverse by the Hollies. So I always loved that song. He was like, ooh, that's a nice one. And he started playing this chord. It was like an F chord with an open G string in it. For all you technical guitar people out there, it sounds like this. And he was like, ooh, that sounds like a bell. And he started going like this. And he said, it should have a nursery rhyme sort of verse. One last bell is ringing now. And it just went from there. And, he writes very cinematically. He hears something and it gives him a mental picture. So I tried to get into that same spirit, and I started seeing, ancient, cathedrals like Notre Dame, and we ended up making it, about, One Last Bell was signifying the truth at the era of truth coming back, and the age of lies is over is one of the lines. This is hopefully. So that's how that one was born. What else? Shoot Out the Stars was a title. He said, give me a title. I read off a bunch. I said, Shoot Out the Stars. He was like, ooh, I like that one. Mm-hmm. And he just started playing these chords and singing a melody, and I embellished on the melody and made it about nihilism, about bored teenagers in L.A. looking for excitement. And what else?
We Like It.
I know I'm missing. Oh, We Like It. Oh, yeah. That's another one. He came in with the riff, and he said, this might be too dumb. Because at one point I said, I think we need more garagey, kind of gritty stuff, because we had written, what had we had done One Last Bell. We had done, there was another one that didn't get used. It was one of mine that my ideas, it sounded more like a Rundgren or Utopia song. So that got pushed to the side. But I said, let's put on our Dukes of the Stratosphere hats and do, which was, XTC's side project, psychedelic 60s sounding thing. I said, let's get real garage band. And he came in with We Like It. And he's like, yeah, we like it. This is really dumb. And I was like, yeah, it's dumb, but it's good. It's good dumb. And so we riffed on that for a while and made it about a candidate, which is fitting right now with election time in the U.S. Wasn't even this was probably 2020, end of 2022, so the election wasn't even on our minds then, but it's a kind of a fitting song for this moment. And it's about, the outrageous lies that politicians tell. And, we made it big and dumb. And I got all my musician friends that I could think of calling to be on it. I got Ian Hunter on it. I got Glenn Matlock from the Sex Pistols. I got Michael Imperioli from the Sopranos. So Marshall Crenshaw. So many names. And a few of them are in the video, which is on YouTube, including Andy Partridge. If you've ever seen the video, his face pops up in there, too. Have you been spinning any Concrete Jangle stuff on your show?
Yeah, I've played the whole thing.
Not to put you on
the
the spot there, Mark, but...
Yeah, I have played the whole thing at one time or another.
Oh, wow, great. Yeah, it's funny. The singles were 4th of July, Shoot Out the Stars, Girl with No Name, We Like It. And every once in a while I turn on Underground Garage and I'll hear, like, Motor City Love Machine or Hey, 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 or All Tied Up was also a single, which actually these songs have been nominated while we're on the ballot for Grammy nominations for All Tied Up as a single and Best Rock Performance. We Like It as Best Rock Video, and Concrete Jangle as Best Rock Album. So who knows? It would be nice to get nominated.
Steve, for the benefit of our listeners, please tell them how they can get your stuff.
Well, folks, there's a website called steveconte.com. That's CONTE. And pretty much everything that I have is on there. Discography. It links to, my discography page links to either Amazon or Spotify or whatever. But Bandcamp is where you can get, like, actual physical copies that are signed by me. I have singles, 7-inch singles of 4th of July. I have the Concrete Jangle album. I have Rock's Cheer album, of course, CDs and vinyl, and all my albums, really, the prior ones, going back to 2009's Crazy Truth. So go to Bandcamp.com and search my name, and you'll find those physical copies there, as well as some downloads. And or my website, or I'm on all the usual sites too: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, Threads, etc.
Go find them, folks. It's worth your while. Trust me.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it, man.
Steve, thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much. It's good to have you back.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me, and hope to talk to you soon. And take good care of yourself, man.
Thank you. Steve Conte is our guest on the Skaar Kaard, the new classic rock that rocks, on 103.7 The Fox.